Hello and welcome back to another Total War video here today. Today we're going to be predicting what will be announced during the Total War 25th anniversary event coming this December. When they announced the 25th anniversary of Total War alongside some of the history of the company and how the games are made, they also brought up how historical fans and fantasy fans alike will be happy with what they have in store this year. I'm actually going to read off what they said, so if you want to read it yourself, I'll have it on screen. Beyond celebrating the past, we plan on welcoming the future of Total War in a big way. Behind the scenes, we're in early stages of producing the Total War 25th Anniversary Showcase, the first video and presentation of its kind in our history. Taking place in early December, this show will unveil new games that you can expect to play in the near and distant future, as well as introduce you to the development teams making them. We'll have more details to share as we approach the end of the year, but whether you're a fantasy or history fan, there'll be plenty to enjoy. So this is pretty big news by CA. Usually it's a few months of radio silence, and then they come out with a big chunk of news or info for the game, and then they'll go back to radio silence. But here it seems they're just like, hey, historical fans, fantasy fans, come December, you both will have something to enjoy. So one of the games is in the near future, and then one is in the distant future. So in the near future, I would imagine, a few months into 2026, hopefully, for being positive about it. And then in the distant future, I would say like to be honest, 2 years, because they say distant. And with CA, that could mean quite a long time. I have 4 potential game ideas that I believe all have a chance of being announced this December for fantasy and historical titles. The first one we're going to be going over is one fans have been asking for quite a long time, and that's Total War Medieval 3. I believe this has the highest chance of being the next historical title, being people really like the originals and have been asking for another one for a very long time. The last Total War Medieval game we got came out November 14th, 2006. That was 18 years ago, nearly 2 decades, and people are still talking about it and asking for another game. To me, this is the most plausible one, hence why I put it at number 1, because I see it everywhere on the forums, I see it in every YouTube video, I see it in every stream. People love the original medieval games and are dying for a third one. So, I would say there's a really, really good chance this is going to be the next one. It has very unique mechanics to it. It's kind of like one of the building blocks, I would say, of early Total War, besides Rome and whatnot. I have not played Medieval 1 or 2, but I can definitely get behind the hype for a third one, especially since every historical fan has been asking CA every chance they can get just to get another one. I'd be very surprised during the event that Total War Medieval 3 will not be the first thing they show during the event. And with my first choice out of the way, my second guess would be Total War Rome 3, another fan favorite of the series, one of the 3 original Total War games. With Rome coming out in 2004 and becoming an instant classic, and its sequel coming out in 2013, it has been about 12 years since we've gotten a Rome game. So as much as I think Medieval 3 has a good chance, I would say if it doesn't get picked, I would say this is right next up to it. Because people really do like Rome, like I said, people still play to this day, and we did get a remaster not too many years ago, but because of that remaster, and I would also say Pharaoh can be added to that mix, because of those, I think it'll be a little longer before we'll get more, especially since I know Rome 2 was not received as well as the original. But not saying we'll never get another Total War Rome game in the future, I'm just saying I think there's a lot more other options they'll probably go for with first, or maybe something completely new, since they do have their pick for many options for both historical and fantasy alike. With all this historical talk going around, my third choice is Total War Empire 2. Just like Rome, it hasn't received a game in over a decade. I wouldn't say Empire was an unpopular title by any means, but I still think it has the lowest chance of being the next historical game out of any on this list, since Rome and Medieval seem to have way more appeal to the general player base. With all the rumors and speculation of a World War I game being made by CA, and then I guess being scrapped in development with the other rumors, if those are true, maybe they could have used what they learned there to implement into a new Empire game. And besides the next historical title we're about to get into, I would say Empire probably has the lowest chance of being announced in December. But then again, I wouldn't rule it out. You never know. It could just be another Empire game, or maybe another Napoleon game. But let's get into the honorable mentions, because I have 2 honorable mentions before we get into the last one. With it being the 25th anniversary of Total War, I really didn't feel right leaving out the series that started the whole franchise, and that'd be Total War Shogun. So I would expect a third one to be announced if they did, so it wouldn't be like, a reboot, it'd just be a straight up third one. And just like Total War Empire, I believe it does have a good chance, if not for the other 2 I've already listed, to be the next historical game coming. Especially since it's the game that started off the whole franchise, and ironically the 25th anniversary of Total War is also the anniversary of Shogun. I can definitely see the player base being just as hyped for this game as any other title that would be on the list, since it is a staple of the Total War franchise. Even though we've only had 2 games and it has been like over a decade, I can still see everybody being just as excited. And it does fit the theme of it being the 25th anniversary of Total War, so I think this might have a bit of a higher chance than Empire, but they might be tied, you know? The other honorable mention we're going to bring up is solely based on rumors, and that would be Total War Star Wars. I believe this game has like 1% chance of actually being a real possibility, of course. Even though the chances are super low for Star Wars to actually be the next title, I think it's cool to talk about because I am a big Star Wars fan, and I definitely think it would sell really well, just like Total Warhammer does, because you could make multiple games, you could sell multiple DLCs, and what I saw on Reddit is actually really cool. There's actually some concepts a few Redditors made for the original movies and the prequels. I'm going to throw those up on screen, so you're welcome to read them yourself, go over them as I talk about them. But we have, like, you know, the Empire, the Republic, the Separatists, the First Order, a lot of these cool concepts, and you know they could milk this thing for another decade just like they did Warhammer. So this would be a pretty big turning point for Total War, because it's all very big range. You have starships that could probably be army abilities, but then everything else you have to come up with a cover system. The maps have to be like at least twice as big. Many big vehicles if people could enter them or exit them. Sieges might not even be a thing. But then again, with all this, the biggest caveat would be working with Disney and going by whatever they have to say, and they have to get a cut as well. So I kind of see that being very unlikely, but I want to rule it out because I think it would be an amazing idea. Now for the last one on the list, I did save the best for last, and this franchise has been rumored for quite a long time, and I believe will fill the fantasy slot come December, and that's going to be Total War Warhammer 40k. This has been rumored for years. People have built hype around this game, and there really is no concrete evidence that we are going to get it. But because they brought up the fantasy slot, and since CA already works very closely with Creative Assembly and has deals for Warhammer Fantasy, one would think they would also been behind the scenes working hard on making Warhammer 40k work in a Total War setting. And as much as I like Warhammer Fantasy a lot, and it is very popular, I do know if they make a Warhammer 40k Total War, it would completely become the biggest cash cow of the company. Because just like Fantasy, it has a big open world, many characters, and unlike Fantasy, it's still going to this day. There's a bunch of books going on. There's no really, you know, like reset like how the Warhammer Old World is now a thing, or AOS. And with all these choices for DLC, games, and lords, the biggest problem would be not just making the units, but would be the bigger question is how they do it. Because Warhammer 40k, as you know, takes place in a galaxy, where Fantasy is one planet and it's super easy to have one map, where now you have to have like at least 20 planets, because you can't get everyone on one planet. It just wouldn't make sense in the lore, and just like I think game wise as well. And besides like the map hurdles, I think everything else looks really good, because Total Warhammer 40k has probably the biggest potential out of any of the titles I've listed so far, since it's so extremely expansive with all the factions, and it's only getting more popular over time. So I definitely see it, like, if it doesn't get announced in December with the rest of the games, it definitely will come in our lifetime. That's going to be it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know down below if you have any other ideas for the 25th anniversary of Total War. And please like and subscribe, really helps with the channel. And I will see you in the next video.